based on her profile, I'm assuming one of those C's is cooking, and another one is creativity. But I'll let you figure that one out, or I'll let you tell us what they are. So, Hini, you are a developer advocate with Entando, and thank you very much for coming on. And please take it away.
Thank you so much. I hope I'm audible and everything's good. Well, as Akhil said, C stands for cooking. Well, that's an essential C of our lives, more than application composition. But anyway, I'll define a part. So, hello everyone, and many thanks to API Days for giving me this opportunity to talk, to speak about application composition, and I guess that's a pretty new thing and a pretty new topic and a pretty new thought process that I'm gonna help you all process with me together. And I hope it'll be fun. So about me, I'm Sohini and I work at Entando as a developer advocate. I've been into tech for almost 2.5 years now, and I've worked as a developer advocate previously at Double Lab, where I have evangelized content mostly on Alexa skill development and voice first applications. Um, and right now at Entando, I'm exploring all about application composition. And today I'd be speaking about application modernization and the 4C's of application composition. So, the first thing that comes to our mind is, why do we need a composable business today? Well, a composable business would typically mean building an organization with interchangeable building blocks, and these blocks can be arranged, rearranged, interchanged, removed, added, updated, and etc. very easily. So, for example, if a team has a security bug in their model, it is faster to find it, fix it, deploy it, and then update it. So, I guess the technology shift, evolving customer needs, changing market competitions, new opportunities with new tech, a composable business is the answer in all these scenarios. With all these pointers, I guess there's a need for creating business resilience, business agility, IT flexibility, and rapid recomposability of business and tech. Um, but what is composable thinking? I've spoken a lot about composable, but what is composable thinking? So it is definitely a mindset, a thought process that changes the means to a new business value. So here, you don't lose your creativity. You don't when you think composable. All you need to do is combine together the principles of modularity, autonomy, orchestration, and discovery with composable thinking. And lastly, as I spoke about composable business, I'd like to add composable thinking is also a very important building block for a composable business. So you can just, whenever you're trying to, migrate from one particular type of doing stuff like a pattern to another new pattern, you can just go ahead and follow a set of instructions or a manual and start doing it. The first step to changing or migrating to a completely new way of developing applications is your mindset. It's your thought process. So, the first thing you would absolutely need to do is transform your thought process. Start thinking composable. And I think most of us think composable in our day to day lives. We are always more happy to break things into smaller things and work on them than to, just pile up everything together, I don't know, in a jar and then work on it. So, that's how I think we should even work out things as a developer. Um, Now, the composable enterprise. So, as businesses needs changes, organizations must be able to deliver innovation quickly, and they also need to adapt applications dynamically. So, reassembling capabilities from inside and outside the enterprise. So, to do this, organizations must understand and implement the composable enterprise. And once again, I would say composable business is a concept where leaders can quickly build new business capabilities by assembling digital assets in an organization that is architected for real time adaptability and resilience in the face of uncertainty. So, these are some very important pointers when you can think of a composable enterprise. Now, this is what Gartner has defined that by 2023, organizations that have adopted a composable approach will outspace competition by 80% in the speed of new feature implementation. So that's kind of a prediction. That is kind of an expectation that's going to happen. So at this point, I would like to tell you all, why not start thinking composable already? And why not start adapting to it already and be the first ones to have a composable enterprise or a composable architecture ready in your organization before someone else does? Someone else who is still not aware of it. So today, when I speak of this, I'm making you aware of it. So why not take this opportunity to start thinking composable? So that is important. So now that we know the stats that by 2023 things are going to change, we should make sure we're taking our first step. So yeah. And now I will jump to application modularity. This is a very important slide. So I've spoken a lot about composability, modularity, composable applications, and blah blah blah. But I think I need to first explain what was there before, what is there now, and what can happen with the composable business. So here, if you take a look at the slide, in the first column, we have monolithic architectures. So in the past, these could be large web applications deployed in a servlet container like Tomcat, or they could be an enterprise application archive deployed on WebSphere. So the second column again is of a different time. So the first one was of 1970s, and then we come to the 2000s. So the second column represents the separation of the front end from business logic. So backend services would be called from a service layer, which could be called using technologies like Spring, EJBs, or ESBS. And then we go to 2010s. Then we can see the third column that represents where we are today, where the backend is broken up into microservices. So, this is what many technology vendors are promoting today. So, microservices, containers, and cloud based infrastructures. This is well suited for large enterprises where the need to simplify the management of thousands of backend services makes the cost of switching architectures worth the effort. But finally, if you take a look at the fourth one, where it is 2020s, I guess it represents the next step to modularize applications. So, modern applications are developed as React, Angular, or Vue apps. JavaScript applications offer significant benefits in development speed and modern user experience. And as these applications grow more and more complex, they're becoming the new front end monolith. Now, micro frontends apply the same architectural discipline to the front end to make it easier to manage large, complex front end applications across large distributed teams. So, microfrontends are kind of the evolution or the next logical step of microservices. So, microservices grew out of a need to manage increasingly complex applications across large distributed teams. Microfrontends apply the same architectural principles to the front end. So they break up the front end monolith into small self contained components, and they make it easier to manage complex front end applications across large distributed teams. So I know it was a very long slide and a lot of explanation, but I hope it makes sense with um, the four different genres and the four different stages of whatever was there, whatever is there now, and whatever can be there in the future. So before we go any further, let's understand what packaged business capabilities are. So, PBCs are encapsulated software components that represent a well defined business capability, recognizable as such by a business user, and a package for programmatic access. Now, technically, a PBC is bounded collection of data schema and a set of services, APIs, and event channels. And PBCs are meant to be used as a building block for application product suites and custom assembled application experiences. PBCs are going to come into our picture um, after some time. So I just thought maybe just give you a little sneak peek of what a PBC is. Uh, and then it's going to be this. So I know this illustration might look a bit hard to catch, but it's easy to understand. So you can see the differences in the three types of application delivery. And I think this is a very important and quite big context is as we create applications in our organization. So the modularity of PBC's packaged business capabilities encapsulates business capabilities to support application design and development by Fusion teams. So the design of PBC modularity inherits some characteristics from both the front end of both the monolithic business applications and the more technical microservices architecture. So if you take a look at the first block, which is there under 2000s, so the project delivery is you can see how it is. So the project delivered monolithic applications are relatively easy to manage since all their parts are tightly connected and always change together. These applications are managed as one unit, but for the exact reasons, they're hard to change. But if you take a look at the one that's on the middle for 2010s, the product delivered microservices based applications are easier to change by reconnecting the microservices and user apps in a new way. But it's harder to manage since each microservice may be changing independently. And finally, if you take a look at the last one, that is a PBC based application. So I explained about what a PBC is. I told you just in the previous slide, I explained what is a PBC. Now, how a PBC functions, that is going to come into the picture. So the PBC based applications are assembled of components that encapsulate notable business objects like bank accounts, purchase order, or processes like loan approval, employee onboarding, or order to cash. So these could be some processes. So they bundle all APIs and event streams required to manage the full life cycle of their managed entity. And PBCs thus behave as if they were mini monolithic applications, and the full applications now are assembled of the PBCs and have the agility comparable to the microservice based designs. So I hope we are clear with the differences, with the different style of application delivery here. And I'm pretty sure you must be wondering which one's best and which one you should go with. And I bet it will be the last one, the PVC based application delivery. Then comes the application composition platform. So just give me a sec. So we have spoken about composable business, composable thinking, PBCs, and Gartner's review of composability. Now it's time we talk about the where. Where can we do everything that we just imagined for the past, I don't know, 10, 12 minutes? So, application composition platform ACP is the answer. So, this is a set of technologies that enables teams to build, deploy, run, and manage applications developed by composing together components and business capabilities. So, now, can you interlink? I spoke about PBCs in the past. So, in the application composition platform, you are supposed to put up a PBC, and that is not only it. So, starting from creation to the end stage where a user is actually consuming it, you need to do everything on an application composition platform. Now, what are components? So we learned that packaged business capabilities are. Now, let's find out what components are. Components are building blocks of an application and can be micro frontends, microservices, page templates, content, data widgets, and UI or UX elements. And just for an example, an Entando bundle can be a PBC that contains components such as microservices and micro frontends. Uh, and then, so this is a very important part. So, just as my topic says, application modernization and the 4C's of application composition. So, let's come to the 4C's of application composition. So far we could understand about application modernization and everything about it, like what are the things we need to do, starting from composable thinking, composable business, composable enterprise, and PBC's components, and ACP2, the application composition platform. Now let's find out how you can uh, build, deploy, run, and manage PBCs from scratch. So to create the application composition platform's architecture, we recommend distributing responsibilities across four different roles or functions. So the first stage we create. In this stage of the process, developers create the building blocks that will become applications. So these building blocks may be subcomponents, components, widgets, packaged business capabilities, or even full solutions. Then we move to the curation stage. This involves cataloging the different building blocks of applications on centralized hubs, creating categorization and logging inventory. So, curators also ensure that components, business capabilities, and solutions are ready for composition, defining some prerequisites, which are very important, and updating capabilities with the latest patch or upgrades. And then we go to the composition phase. So enterprises create composable applications by pulling the necessary building blocks from the curated hub and integrating them based on their prerequisites and given needs of an application. And the developers who generally work on the composition are responsible for delivering uh, user interfaces and experiences that will be enjoyed by the end user, whether that user is an external business user, an internal client, or a customer. And once applications are composed, business users at the consuming phase of the process, that's the last step, are able to make some adjustments to the end user experience, working closely with team members at the compose layer. So, those who consume the application are then able to evaluate the usability and effectiveness of the application, communicating necessary changes and the feature updates to be addressed at the create, curate, and consume layer of the process. So I know I went like a big airplane that just took off, but I just wanted to give a little idea on the four parts because it would take me a day if I were to talk about all the separate roles. But of course, I can put you in a thought. Which role would you like to take up? Would you like to be a creator, a curator, a composer, or a consumer? Or would you like to be all and be a jack of all trades? So that's my question to you. What would you choose? Do let me know on the comments. And then this slide is to depict an example of everything that I shared. Um, Under the create phase, we find there are several PPCs created by a creator or a group of creators. You can also see the examples PPCs, example PPCs that are made. So we have a login sign up component, a product catalog, and a cart PPC. Now, once the creator has created all these, he or she or they are going to push it to the hub. Now, what is this hub? This hub that I have spoken of in the past too is a repository, which could be local, remote, public, or private, that contains components. Now, here in the hub, before your PBC gets in, the curator or group of curators will check if your PBC was made with all the requirements. This is a kind of validation the curator would do for your PBC. And then finally, when your PBC has passed the validation, it will be up on the hub. So finally, the composer you see, or the group of composers, would use those PPCs on a single page application or a full stack application. And finally, the consumer will be able to use the application. So they could
Yeah.
analyze or monitor it. So yeah, that's about the 4C's of application composition. Yep, Akhil,
I caught you
what's
at
up?
the right time, apparently.
Yeah.
Fabulous. Hey, that was excellent. I didn't actually know much about Entando, so I
Uh-huh.
think modularity is quite important. I think that's immensely been demonstrated. So uh, I remember this talk that Elon Musk, who I don't particularly like, but he talked about Tesla's the company Tesla does not make cars; they make factories that make
Uh-huh.
cars, right? And
Mm.
it's that idea of composability because he can take that same factory, adjust a few things, and suddenly he's doing something
Right,
completely different.
right.
So I appreciate that idea. So yeah, that's fabulous. Um, in terms of modularity, so one of the things you showed in your hexagonal slide, if you will, is moving towards that platform building blocks or the PBCs, if you will, right? So, are you seeing people do that already, or is that something that you're trying to push towards, but outside of Entando, of course? Is that something you see happening, or is that something still quite
Well,
new for folks?
no, it's happening. Quite a few organizations have already uh, migrated to the composable way of building applications,
Mhm.
but you know, it's the best part of my job. I love to create this awareness just as a developer, more than just being at Entando, because I personally love this concept. So I'm still trying to create more awareness about this so that even more people can shift to this and make it even larger.
Mm,
But
amazing.
to answer your question, it's a yes.
Okay,
Companies are, yeah.
fabulous. Yeah.
Mhm.
No, that's great, and I think that sets the industry up for doing all sorts of really fascinating things.
Yeah.
So, Hini, thank you very much for your presentation. I think certainly I learned a lot, and hopefully, folks on the call learned a lot as well. I suspect they're still digesting what's happening. So, thank
Yep.
you so very much for presenting, and we'll see you soon, I'm sure.